It's 10 years since a Hong Kong bookseller, Lam Wing, who was detained for selling material critical of the political elite, evaded the Chinese government. It's the 21st of June 2016. A slim 61-year-old Cantonese man in a pale blue shirt open at the neck, with thick bullet grey hair and thin silver-rimmed glasses, lights up a cigarette. He doesn't know if he's being watched. He's been released from detention, where he's been interrogated on the Chinese mainland by people calling themselves the Central Special Unit. He's been allowed back to Hong Kong to retrieve a hard drive the Special Unit wants for its investigations. But now he's home, he has to decide. Will he comply?
I realized this isn't an ordinary matter. It wasn't just about me now. It was a problem for all Hong Kong people. I thought, why should I hand this data over to you? You want me to betray all these people. I can't do that. I took 3 puffs of my cigarette before thinking about this again.
What he would decide to do took incredible courage. We'll get to that later. How did Lam Wing come to be in this situation? He opened Causeway Bay Books in Hong Kong in 1994, an independent bookshop which you reached via stairs from street level. You could also buy books through mail order. He says it was the Tiananmen Square massacre that made him want to sell political books.
What influenced me most was the June 4th incident in 1989 in China. I wondered why the June 4th incident didn't happen in the US, the UK, France or Canada, but in China. The Chinese military opened fire and massacred students. Opening a bookstore was very important for 2 reasons. First, I could access different books to analyze and judge this event. Second, I could discuss this situation with other friends. What were the reasons? Is it possible that understanding the June 4th incident could change China in the future? This was actually the most important reason for me in opening the bookstore. Back then, Britain was in control. You could read, sell, and write any book. So at that time, there was freedom of expression. They used democratic methods to govern Hong Kong. When the Communist Party came to power, everything was different. They wanted to control everything.
When Britain handed Hong Kong back to China in 1997, a principle of one country, 2 systems was agreed, whereby Hong Kong would keep a high degree of autonomy. This preserved the freedoms it was used to. In 2003, when individual visitors from mainland China were allowed to visit without needing to be on business or in a tour group for the first time, they found a prized commodity was on offer.
Hong Kong became a very important consumer hub for books. It was because books were unavailable in mainland China, even if you had the money. So many business people weren't buying watches or mobile phones. They already had those. They came to Hong Kong to buy books.
Lam Wing visited the city of Shenzhen 2 or 3 times a week to see his girlfriend. It borders Hong Kong, but it's part of the Chinese mainland. At the border crossing on the 24th of October 2015, things went differently.
When you go through customs, there are 2 checkpoints. The first one opens when you scan your ID and you go in. After you go in, it closes again. And the first one doesn't reopen. I was standing in the middle. It started to continuously beep. Then 2 people came over. One was an official from Shenzhen, followed by the highest ranking official at the Shenzhen immigration there. He told me to come out and go to a corner on the left. 31 people surrounded me.
He was taken, handcuffed and blindfolded, by train to the eastern Chinese city of Ningbo, where he was kept in a small room.
There was a bed, a place to sleep, a table, a chair, a bathroom, a screen, a very tall window. They sent people 24 hours a day. They took shifts. Even 2 people watched you when you sleep. When you sleep, they make you stick your hands out. They force you to do that. Do you know why you can't tuck your hands inside? They're afraid you'll kill yourself. They would interrogate me whenever they felt they needed to. At first, it was about 3 or 4 days a week.
最快就是他打开那个电脑。
The worst part was when I found out that my computer had been opened, exposing data. They showed me the emails I'd sent books to. It showed what books were ordered, when they were sent, how many copies, their last names, first names, and the destination addresses. This kind of thing definitely shouldn't be made public, right? Because I help send people books. I keep their data confidential. I was terrified when they showed it to me. I was in shock as how they were able to get hold of it.
By the end of December, Mr. Lam's business and the general manager, business manager, co-owner and a shareholder were at the centre of an international story.
Since October, one by one, 5 men who worked at a small bookshop and publisher have disappeared. The topics covered in the bookstore include political corruption, power struggles, even the love affairs of China's top leaders, all of which are banned from being published in mainland China.
In January, a crowd of 6,000 people marched to the office of Beijing's representative in Hong Kong.
I would say that it's a turning point for suppression of our freedom. Because how can a person in Hong Kong exercising our rights be now, kidnapped to China to be detained for investigation? This is a milestone for suppression.
After 8 months in detention, Mr. Lam was released. While the 4 other men connected to the bookshop had gone silent once they could go, Mr. Lam had other ideas.
What did I have to be afraid of? I just believed I haven't done anything wrong.
He was going to go public. He contacted Albert Ho, a legislator for the Democratic Party, and he organised a press conference.
I went to the restroom and splashed myself with cold water, and then I slowly waited for the meeting to start. I was so tired. I hadn't slept for 2 days. I realized that this wasn't just a bookstore issue anymore. It's a problem for Hong Kong as a whole.
He sits in front of a dozen microphones, describing what happened to him in detail. At one point, a journalist asks, "What do you think would be the effect on Hong Kong's freedoms if you hadn't come out to speak today?"
It shows there are still people who speak out in Hong Kong. If I didn't speak out, Hong Kong's freedoms of speech and press would suffer in silence. That's something I don't want.
After the press conference, China's foreign ministry said Lam Wing is a Chinese citizen and he has violated China's laws on the mainland. Relevant authorities in China are authorised to handle the case in accordance with the law. Following massive anti-government protests, China imposed a national security law in June 2020, saying it was necessary for stability. Under the law, Albert Ho, who hosted the press conference, was arrested and he remains in custody. Lam Wing left Hong Kong in 2019, fearing new extradition rules. Now in Taiwan, he reopened Causeway Bay Bookstore with the help of fundraisers. He was speaking to me, Josephine McDermott, for Witness History. If you're interested now to rewind further and get some more context about Hong Kong, you can search Witness History, Hong Kong, The Handover, and also Witness History, I Led the Umbrella Protests. Make sure you hit subscribe wherever you get your BBC podcasts. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Imagine being here.
Scientists have made the atomic bomb. The first one was dropped on a Japanese city this morning.
Here.
During the meeting, Mr. Mandela was informed of the government's decision regarding his release.
And here.
Witnesses have spoken of a wall of water that swept coastlines in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand.
Hear from the people who were there.
He heard me praying while he was shooting, and he just stopped. And he said, "I'm not going to. I'm going to leave you here to tell the story."
Knowing that you have a spy and that you're following a spy, it doesn't get any cooler than that.
Witness History brings you first-hand accounts.
Merkel gets up and says, "I'm going," and Tusk says, "I'm locking the door, nobody's leaving, you're reaching a compromise or you're not leaving this room."
Was it shopping carts that made you rich?
Well, they didn't make me poor.